Hello and welcome to Voices Unheard, produced by Unicorns Live. I'm your host, Jessica Samuels. Thank you for joining us tonight as we once again share some underrepresented voices in our community. And my guest this evening is
Taysha Jarrett, and I'm going to be speaking about growing up autistic and bigender.
Okay, Taysha, can you share with us your pronouns?
She, he, they.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll get to that. And I am she and her. I would like to start this evening by acknowledging that we live, work, and play on the ancestral, unceded, and traditional lands of the Okanagan Nation and Syilx people. I would like to give a thank you this evening to our episode sponsor, Krushel Wealth Management at Raymond James Limited. A proud member and advocate of the LGBTQ+ community, Krushel Wealth Management of Raymond James Limited is one of BC Interior's premier LGBTQ+ wealth planning organizations. And of course, I would like to give an ongoing thank you to Canada Kelowna Hotel and Conference Center, who is providing this space for us tonight and does every week, and as well show sponsors Kelowna Pride and Castanet. And so now, Taysha, hello.
Hi.
We like to dive right in here on the show. So thank you for joining us. Intrigued by what you wrote as part of the submission for the show, autistic, bigender, queer. Let's start off with bigender and queer, what those are for you, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, well, bigender would be my gender identity. And I liken it to almost the colonial version of two-spirited, in that they embody both male and female.
Okay.
That's what bigender means to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you say embody that is, talk a little bit more about this. Is this every day? Is this throughout the span of a period of time? How does it show up?
It functions all the time. It's a constantly revolving door of inner personalities almost. When I was younger, going through puberty, it was more pronounced just because I would walk by a mirror or something like that, and I'd be surprised by how I looked, because at that point, maybe I was feeling more male for that week even or something like that, and I'd catch myself in a mirror and think, oh man, okay, right. Yeah, that's not the body I'm walking around in. And sometimes it would surprise me a little bit. Oh. So I had a lot of that.
And what would you do in those moments? Would you change your...
Don't look at the mirror.
Okay.
Yeah,
this seems practical.
I spend a lot of time just not looking at the mirror because I can get confused. It feels confusing, yeah.
Sounds confusing and difficult to manage. I mean, how practical is it to walk about your day not seeing a reflection of yourself?
Well, I've had to accept that I present as female and work with that, because I am the way I look. This is, my hair looks better, like longer, or I like the way I look in makeup. So I tend to, I had to make that decision. Okay, this is what I want to do. And if I'm presenting this way and I want to present this way, then I'm going to run with it best I can. Okay.
Do you still have those moments now where you...
Absolutely. I still catch myself in the mirror sometimes. It's like, oh yeah, right. I don't know, it throws me sometimes, yeah.
And otherwise, would you recognize that you're feeling particularly male or female on that given moment? Like, is that the kind of thing that catches your eye?
Yeah, I get into like a male brain set or a female brain set. I think maybe I'm thinking more analytically, or I don't know. I just feel more of a male presence.
I was going to say, I won't ask which one is more analytical.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
For you, though, which is...
Stereotypically,
Yeah. Oh. And so when were you able to put the bigender name on it?
Just recently.
Okay.
Just recently. I hadn't really thought about it because it's just the way I am. And I hadn't really thought about a label. I'm not particular to labels. I don't really like labels. Mm-hmm. But when trying to explain to other people how I'm feeling or internally what's going on, labels are helpful in that way, that you can say this to someone, they can look it up, they can maybe investigate a little bit. But I hadn't really decided to put a label on it until recently, that there was such a thing as a label for it
Right.
as well. Yeah.
You didn't know there it was?
No.
So up until that point, you just went along? How did you?
Yeah, I just thought I was, rapid cycling, male, female. I don't know. Just went along with it.
Yeah. And then you started off with saying it's the colonial version of two-spirited, and our first show, actually, we had an individual who identified as two-spirited, and that discussion was quite interesting, because it was about the belief that within all of us, regardless of cultural background or what
Yes.
have you, there's this spectrum, right, of female, male, and then all the combinations in between.
Absolutely. Yeah, I believe that.
And when you talk about people needing to put a label on it, do you think that's a very colonial thing?
I think so. I think we like to put things in little boxes. You can't just let somebody just be who they are. You got to analyze it, box it up, put a little sticker on it. I think we're very much that way.
Why?
Oh, gosh. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know why we're like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm. And so on your day-to-day basis, to getting back to the bigender, it can be kind of how you're feeling that day and how it happens to present for you on that day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
And then we bring along queer.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean for you?
Being with my sexual identity, I don't identify as a lesbian, even though I'm in a female-female relationship. I don't identify as bisexual because my interest lies outside of physical attributes of someone. It's more of a mind connection. So I like the word queer because it encompasses a whole spectrum. I'm not saying I'm attracted to this sex, or I've just wiped all that out and just, it's absolutely based on the individual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then to bring back the point, and just for anybody who's watching, bigender refers to your
Gender identity,
and queer refers to your
sexual identity.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And then for someone who doesn't like labels, that's two back-to-back labels.
I know. But, like I was saying, though, it's necessary sometimes for people to understand. I've been in a few conversations recently where a new member of the community is trying to identify herself, what she is, and she's brand new to the community and wants to know, am I a lesbian, am I bisexual? And you get in these conversations talking about labels because they feel a necessity to label themselves. And in doing that, I feel like I need to contribute my identities to kind of, help them along in that process of figuring their own brains out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I've decided to pick my labels so that I can share that experience and say, these are my identities. And then we can have a deeper conversation about what's going on with them.
When you say the community, what community?
The LGBT community.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much pressure is there or requirement within the LGBT community to identify or label?
I don't think I really don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people mind one way or the other. I don't think you need to come out and announce yourself. You just show up and you're part of the community and people accept you and you can be who you want to be. Sometimes I think the labels are more for people on the outside as well.
The rest of us.
Yeah. They can get an idea of, what's going on and look up the things on Google and see what's what.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak from personal experience. It's like, okay, bigender. Okay, what does that mean? It's our habit to Google something, ask Google, it knows everything.
But in daily life in the LGBT community, going out, for events and stuff like that, nobody cares what you're doing. That's your own business.
You're just Taysha.
Exactly.
With the taking a look at queer and growing up, when did that kind of present itself, or when did you identify? When did you know that that's what that was?
That's a tough question because that ties into the autism.
Right.
I didn't realize there was anything different about me. I just thought that's the way everybody was. And it wasn't until maybe, I don't know, my 20s, something like that, that it started to occur to me that not everybody was queer and open like that. The first time I really got kind of slammed with the whole thing, though, was in grade 7. There was a girl that I really liked in the class. And I had noticed that the other kids, when they liked somebody, they would, send them a note or they would say something. So I wrote this girl a note, of course, because I'm thinking, well, that's what you're supposed to do, give her the note. And that turned out badly because she told a couple of the guys in the classroom and they ended up beating me up. And then I started thinking, okay, what did I do wrong here? I don't understand. And I didn't have anybody to talk to at the time. Because I didn't want to talk to my parents about it because I had done something wrong. And I never wanted to talk to them about stuff when I did something wrong.
So not about that it wasn't necessarily that you liked a girl and you identified that that was a thing, but it was that doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was tied into the note, that I shouldn't have given her a note. It didn't occur to me it's because she was a girl.
When did you realize that it's like, oh, it's the girl thing that's the problem?
That happened a lot later. Teenager, 20s kind of thing. Yeah, it just didn't occur to me.
And it's that it didn't occur to you, that's where the autism comes in? Is that what you're meaning?
A little bit. Yeah, gender and autism, there's an interesting thing that goes on with that.
Talk more about that.
Yeah. Well, when you look at some studies, they say that anywhere from 15 to 35% of autistic people are part of the LGBT community. A lot of them identify as transgender and non-binary. I don't know what the percentages are on that.
Right.
But the whole idea of gender is something we don't really tend to care about. It's not an important factor. So that kind of pervades into all these other areas of attraction and things like that, because it just doesn't occur to us that we did something that society wouldn't like.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're looking for societal cues.
Yeah.
Passing a note and getting beat up.
Yeah.
And that was in grade 7.
Mm-hmm.
You said you were slammed with that information, and you said you really didn't come to that realization until you're in your 20s. That's a long time frame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it didn't occur to me it was the gender that was the issue. Just that I shouldn't have passed her the note.
When did you talk to your parents about it?
Last week.
I wasn't expecting that answer. That usually doesn't happen. Okay.
I hadn't brought it up with them, but I wanted to get some more information about myself growing up. So I brought it up with them. And yeah, they knew nothing about it. So I guess the school didn't tell them I got beat up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to them, you're Taysha, and however it.
Yeah. They just go with it. Yeah, that's just me.
Isn't it? I mean, I feel, part of me feels badly that I'm sitting here surprised, like that your family just went with it, and you thought the problem was in the writing the note, not that it was to a girl, but how, like, there's just this sense of innocence that just is, yeah, it's heartbreaking, right?
Yeah. No, it was difficult growing up just because there is an innocence to it. You're completely lacking in understanding of social cues, you know, if people are mad at you or you're boring someone or any of those things. So you kind of float through life, you know, you're not really sure that you're doing anything out of the ordinary until, you know, mid-elementary school, start kind of figuring things out. That's when I started watching people.
Is that when you were diagnosed?
No, they didn't have a diagnosis back then.
Right.
Yeah, no, I was just the weird kid. Yeah, that needed extra attention.
Right. And were your friends and teachers empathetic, sympathetic, supportive?
I didn't really have any friends in elementary school. I wasn't very verbal, so I didn't talk to anybody. The teachers were good in that at recess and lunch they let me stay in because they knew the playground situation was just too much for me to handle. So I would stay in class and photocopy sheets for the next class, or, you know, whatever they needed done, tidy up the desks or whatever they needed done. So I would do things like that. So a lot of the teachers were really good that way. Every once in a while I would get a year where the teacher wasn't good that way, and I would end up outside in a corner somewhere cowering because I was just terrified about being around all that noise and activity. Yeah.
When did it come to the forefront that you are autistic?
I mean, I didn't really, again, labels.
Yeah.
I didn't really label it as being autistic until maybe a few years ago. Went to my family doctor, and I've known him for, 18 years. Our kids grew up together, and I went in there and I said, I think I might be autistic. And he goes, that sounds about right.
Thanks, Doc.
Okay. And I said to him, like, should I get an official diagnosis or anything like that? And he says, why would you want to do that? What's the point? He says, you're already on disability for it. So I was like, okay, well, there you go then.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What an incredible amount of resiliency you were forced to build up and develop over the years to, you're just kind of just going with how life presented itself to you, and to go back to that earlier statement where we feel a need to say, you're this, and so therefore it's addressed this way. And I'm just getting this vision of you growing up, just rolling with it, more or less.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. And what happened with the school is that they started letting me sit. They had like a detention room out in the hallway that fit 2 desks. And they would let me sit in there to do my work or to do exams, or I could sit in the library to do stuff like that so that it was quieter, because just even the sound of people's pencils and breathing and stuff, it was just sensory overload all the time in the classroom. So they let me do that. And then I was calmer at school. When I was back in the classroom, I could actually start watching people and seeing, like, how do people talk to each other? If he says this, what does this person say? What do their faces do? What do their voices do? What are they doing with their hands? And just over time, just learning to mimic that all of those different things, those different cues.
When you wrote your submission for the show and talked about being on the show, you used the term passing. And was that in reference to, what was that in reference to?
The autism.
Autism. Okay.
Yeah. Because there's little things that people don't realize that I would be doing on a minute-by-minute basis. Little things like making sure I try to maintain eye contact, which is really, really difficult for me. But I found I have to do that because I've learned to read certain facial expressions, when eyebrows are raised or lowered, or, that's giving a clue as to how the person's responding to what I'm saying. So I have to make sure I try to maintain eye contact. Using my voice in a way that has ups and downs in it. I go up a little bit for a question or go down a little bit for something, making sure I do that, using my hands. All these things, I have to think about them as I'm doing them. And I think for most people, I don't think they have to do that. I'm pretty sure that it just comes naturally.
Yeah.
But it has to be a thought process for me.
Sounds exhausting.
I've gotten good. It's like a little computer. There's a little computer in my head and a Rolodex that I can reference certain things. When somebody says a certain thing, this is the proper response for it. And I can flip through that Rolodex really fast now. But that's what I meant by passing.
Yeah.
Is that I've gotten pretty good at the computer side of my brain and just calculating everything.
Is being autistic a label that you share widely? I mean, at this stage in your life?
If something comes up, I don't mind not mentioning it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something I hide.
From what I have read or seem to know about autism, there's a spectrum. And they used, I'm not sure if it's even referred to much anymore as they would say someone is on the spectrum, or that's the correct way.
Yeah, that's the way that they do it now, if you're on the spectrum. They used to be, used to refer to Asperger's, and you hear people say high functioning, things like that. We try to stay away from some of those.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because it seems to me that you would fit into that category, which previously would have been defined as high functioning, if you were able to come along in your life and then just pass.
Exactly. Yeah, I was lucky. And with girls, it is different. Autistic girls are very different than autistic boys. And one of the main things is that we learn how to hide it really fast because we're more open to social cues. And a lot of times girls don't get diagnosed because pretty early on in their lives they learn how to function within it. But there's this computer going on in their brain constantly, you know, making sure that they say the right things and do the right things and move the right way and things like that. But they learn to compensate fairly early on, a lot of them, and that's why they don't go diagnosed.
Right. What are some of the better, I mean, I feel like maybe I focused a little bit on the challenges, and I think it's important to acknowledge the challenges. But in your life, what are some of the joys or some of the great things that have come into your life?
The benefit of studying people is that I'm an author by trade, and entering into conversations in books and working with people's emotions and how they, you know, interact with each other and stuff like that. This is all stuff I have studied intensely. So it has really, really helped with my writing, in that I'm able to portray a realistic situation between two people, because I write romantic fiction.
Right. Yeah, and so the description of the interaction, I mean, I'm thinking of that computer, that Rolodex. So you're just pulling from that Rolodex, and it would probably serve the writing quite well.
It really does.
How long have you been an author?
10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that Rolodex, how does it work with the genre? So you said romantic fiction. Do you think those two things are linked? I mean, in terms of your experiences, the human interactions observing, would that work for, I don't know, crime dramas or police?
Probably not, unless there was a lot of, like, a relationship happening in a murder mystery or something like that. Maybe it was a crime-fighting duo that were partners.
Hey, I like that.
That were interacting with each other, then that would work. But yeah,
how do you pick the genre then, or does it? How does that evolve? Just as an author, how does that happen?
Well, it's funny. I read fantasy, and I started writing a fantasy trilogy about 10 years ago, and started getting into this, you know, things with these different characters and stuff like that. And then I noticed that these two male characters, were really attracted to each other, and it just happened absolutely organically. And I just decided just to run with it. So that's why I write mostly gay male romantic fiction.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it just evolved. It wasn't, you didn't get up one day and say, I know what I'm going to write about.
No, not at all. No.
Have you ever strayed from that genre?
No. No, I haven't. No, I've tried, but it's just people always end up getting involved with each other. I don't know. I can't keep
You
people away
always
from
end
each
up
other.
back
It's
at the
like-
same place.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So then I guess, so back to my question, how do others pick genres? It sounds like it picks you almost.
It does. I think it really does. If you have a certain interest, if you are interested in criminology type shows and stuff on TV or reading the newspaper, then you're more likely to be tracked towards that. But I really, as a kid, I really was drawn to fantasy because it took me out of myself and took me out of this world into something completely different. So I was really drawn to fantasy that way. So that's my natural inclination is to do that. Although I have written contemporary stuff as well. Yeah.
And what role does being bigender and queer also play in your writing?
Yeah, I think it just gives me a unique perspective, especially when I'm dealing with same-sex characters. Yeah. Just the struggles, especially if I write contemporary, just what the outside world might be thinking about these two people just carrying on a normal relationship, falling in love like anybody else. But then there's this outside perspective of what other people might be thinking and how that creeps in to the characters' relationship with each other and how they accept the relationship.
Did you read anything like this growing up? Was there anything?
No.
How
No.
important, like, what would that have done for you if you had stumbled upon?
I would have started writing way sooner.
Oh,
Yes, absolutely. I would have started writing way sooner if I had known that was. I didn't even know this genre was out there.
so did that prevent you from starting writing then? Because you.
I just wasn't interested in writing anything.
Okay.
Right? That was nothing sparked me. There wasn't that spark to say, yeah, I want to sit down and write about these people. That didn't happen. Not like it does now. There are these characters just jump into my head and need to have their story told.
And for the community, having this type of genre out there, what does that mean?
It's very important. I think it's very important to have this type of fiction out there, especially the contemporary fiction. Quite often, authors will have a discussion about whether we should be putting our contemporary romantic fictions in the gay genre on Amazon, or if we should just put it in contemporary and see what happens. And sometimes you'll change back and forth. You'll just put it in with the other stuff in the contemporary romance. And it sells just as well as if you have it in the gay section. So it's interesting to kind of play back and forth with that. And I've spoken to, numerous people that they picked up a gay fiction book by accident and loved it and want more of it. And it's because it was in the contemporary, just the regular contemporary fiction section.
Right.
Yeah. So it's important for those books to be out there because it's not just people in the community that get to read about people like themselves. It's people outside get a better understanding of, two people, attraction, fall in love, this the whole relationship. They get a view that it's the same as anybody else.
How much of that is also the reflection of where we are as a society in terms of discussions about these types of things?
Well, the internet has certainly opened things up. Most of my books are ebooks, and it's a lot easier for people to read something that they might not normally have read if they had to go to a bookstore and pull it off a shelf and walk up to the counter with it. Right? This gives them an opportunity to try something a little bit different. It's just on their phone or on their tablet. Nobody knows what they're reading. They can sit on the bus.
Right.
Right? So it opens it up to a lot more people.
No judgments.
No.
You're
No.
not worried about other people's judgments.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's been great.
What's one of the biggest lessons that you've learned or you'd like to share with someone from a perspective of who you are in terms of being autistic, bigender, queer? I mean, I think about just your story as being a young kid and you're just doing you. No labels.
Yeah, no, that was the thing. I just tried to exist as my own self and function, get through every day. I was talking to my dad there last week, and when I got overwhelmed, especially like in PE, or I was in dance for 15 years. If I got overwhelmed by what we were doing or whatever, I would feign an ankle injury. And I was talking to my dad last week, and he was saying to me that, he says, yeah, we were always worried about your ankles. He says, we were worried when you started playing soccer that your ankles were just so delicate. I'm like, there was nothing wrong with my ankles.
Fine.
Yeah, that was my coping mechanism. I had to sit down because my ankle was bothering me, and then I could, tuck into a corner somewhere and just decompress.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But yeah.
What are your coping mechanisms now?
My wife.
Hi.
She's very good at calming me down. Yeah. Just with hand rubs and things like that. She's very good at calming me down.
I know you mentioned earlier that females who are on the spectrum, autism spectrum, oftentimes are, bigender or have various things in that community. Do you know of other individuals in Kelowna that are similar to?
No, I don't. No. Because that's the thing, we don't walk around with our labels.
Right.
Right. So I may have met 3 or 4 people. Who knows? I meet a lot of people. It's possible I met somebody that's the same as me, but it didn't come up.
And so not a strong need to have that specific of a sense of community.
No.
You must get that then from the wider, I mean, you mentioned your wife, but also the wider community, so the wider LGBTQ community.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And is that part of who you, is that disclosed as an author? So you read the books and you have the author bio. Mm-hmm. Is that shared in your author bio?
No, I haven't done that, which, I've been thinking about it. Because the readers, they like to know more about the authors.
I'm just wondering if someone would reach out to you and say, hey, that's me too.
Yeah, that's possible. It's something I've been thinking about. Yeah, I'll probably end up doing that.
Great. What are you writing right now?
I am writing the 3rd book of a series, a vampire series. It'll be the final book. It's finished. There's a conversation I need to rewrite in it, but it's being released in October.
Exciting.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That'll be that series. Done.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then on to the next one?
Yeah, then I've got a trilogy planned. The one that I originally started 10 years ago, actually. There's just 400,000 words of muck at the moment. I just need to, I don't know, start again or something.
Oh, man.
I don't know.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I figured it'll take me about 6 or 7 years. That's what I'm kind of anticipating.
What's that creative process like for you?
I like it. Yeah, I like digging into it and sectioning it all out and figuring out what's what and getting into it and start writing the good scenes. Yeah.
Those scenes that just naturally evolve and lend themselves.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for sharing your story here tonight. It was wonderful to meet you.
Yeah,
I appreciate
nice to be here. Thank you.
Okay, what's the title of your new book?
Alexander, Prince of the North.
Okay, but it's the 3rd.
It's the 3rd book in the Drakkar Coven series.
All right.
Yeah.
Everybody sign up and tune in. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and that's our show for tonight. Voices Unheard, produced by Unicorns Live. I would like to say thank you to Canada Kelowna Hotel and Conference Centre for providing this space, Kelowna Pride, as well as Castanet Media. And we'd like to say a special thank you to our episode sponsor this evening, Krushel Wealth Management of Raymond James Limited, a proud member and advocate of the LGBTQ+ community. Krushel Wealth Management of Raymond James Limited is one of BC Interior's premier LGBTQ+ wealth planning organizations. Have a good night, everyone. I'll see you next week.